Raw for TV. Too raw.
What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. All right. So one of the things that you've heard me say on this platform quite a bit is how often media now doesn't push back against some of the more asinine things some of these people, these personalities say on in these interviews. They don't fact check these people at all, and they don't challenge what a lot of these people say anymore. And you know, when I was coming of age, journalists were expected to be tough when you're conducting an interview, and I think a lot of people get it misconstrued. Like they'll say, "Oh, this journalist is mean, and this journalist is asking, they're not being fair." And well, look, they're supposed to be to some degree, unless you're talking about like a talk show with celebrities. That's not the same thing as a political interview or, a sit-down interview with a personality where they're going to be saying things or statements that aren't personal or anecdotal or what have you. There's entertainment hosts, and then there's journalists. And I think people don't understand the difference. That's why recently I was very impressed at the journalists that challenged that stupid shit that Trump said about, they say that I'm the greatest president, one of the greatest. No, they don't say that. He said that. At first I thought it was satire. I thought he was, cutting himself into the video saying that to Trump and respond. But it was actually an interview where he was actually challenging Trump, and I noticed something. When you challenge Trump, he doesn't foam at the mouth and go into one of these rants. He's actually a bit of a coward. That's why he bullies women. But if you're a man and you step up to him and you challenge something that he says, unless he gets the impression that you are a PUSSY, a lot of times he backs down. But anyway, let me get to Rich Paul. So Rich Paul has a history of saying things that just make no sense whatsoever. See the quote I have up here when he once said something about LeBron having platinum antlers while Mike has gold antlers. And when you look it up on Google, they say, "Oh, well, it was a joke." I mean, Rich Paul knows that goats have horns. No, he didn't. He didn't know the difference. He just opens his mouth and keeps saying, just talking and saying dumb crap. Just like this, the same guy that says, Mike and Kobe had this selfish gene because they came from a two-parent household, which doesn't make any sense because usually when you come from a two-parent household, you learn to share because all the attention is not put on you, especially if you have kids, especially if you have siblings, as Mike and Kobe did. I know Mike definitely did. Mike had siblings. So you learn to share things when you come from a household where it's just, it's multiple kids and the two parents. When you come from a single parent household and you're the only kid, all the attention is put upon you. You don't usually have to share much. These things have to be taught to you, but these things are never taught to LeBron James. So anyway, Rich Paul opens his mouth and says another dumb thing, and that athletes have the toughest job in the world. Millionaire athletes have the toughest job in the world because even though they make hundreds of millions of dollars, half of it's gone through taxes. They got to pay agents. They got to pay all this other stuff. Then they have to support the people who are around them, right? Unlike us mere 9-to-5ers, we don't have to have all these responsibilities. But the elitists, they the ones that have it the toughest. We need to cry for them, not for, the underpaid teacher who's being verbally abused by her students and underpaid by, her profession. Not the cop who put his life at risk every day, all day, every day. Not the people that got to work 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. No, it's these millionaire athletes that have it the toughest.
Athletes have the hardest job in the world. They take everybody to work with them. You at work. And nobody with you. You get what I'm saying? But they take everybody to work with them. Because of that, it's a very difficult thing to be a professional athlete. Not to mention, $100 million, really $50 million after taxes, right? Now you got to multiply that times your dependents, right? Then break it down from there. When an athlete makes money, everybody around them stop working. That don't make sense though. When the CEO of, Amazon gets, when that person got promoted to become CEO, I can guarantee you, nobody stopped working.
Yeah, this is why there's a growing disconnect between athletes and fans. 50, 60 years ago, athletes in the NBA, they live well. Okay. Now, remember when the league first started, these guys would have like maybe a 5-year, $5,000 contract. Matter of fact, I remember Joe Folks had a contract where it was something like 5 years, $8,000 and a free car. That was considered an elite contract back then. Now, of course, inflation was different back then. The economy was different. So that $8,000 contract over 5 years, that hit different when, the price of a hamburger may have been 15 cents or 10 cents or whatever it was back then. It's different. However, by the 60s, these athletes were making Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. They were the first ones to have $100,000 contracts. So they were living just good enough not to have all these seasonal jobs to make ends meet. Only really by the early 1960s, only like some of the bench guys had to work during the off season. But regular NBA players, as long as they took care of their money and managed their money properly, they could live well. And this is when the NBA players first started integrating into white neighborhoods. They weren't rich, but they lived comfortably. By the 70s, these guys were making, maybe a 7-year, $300,000 contract, 6-year, $450,000 contract. They were making good money. They're making the same amount of money or close to what some corporate people were making. And then by the late 70s, early 80s, what CEOs were making before the CEOs really started making exorbitant amounts of money and the balance got really out of whack during the Reagan years and beyond. So I'm saying all this to say this. At that point in time, the fans could connect with the athletes more. And the athletes had a lot more in common with the fans. The media, there wasn't a huge income disparity between the media and the athletes at that time. But that changed during the 90s. But a lot of these guys now today, I mean, it just slaps in the face of the everyday Joe that's going through it right now during this rough economy, where people are having to deal with rising, rents, tenant landlord laws that heavily favor the landlords. When I was growing up, if you got evicted, you had a month to get out. Now, with some people, you only have 7 days. And then sometimes by the time you get the notice, it's less than 7 days. So people have to have the embarrassment of having their furniture put out on the lawn for people to take pictures of and put on social media just to embarrass people. I mean, we live in a cruel world, man. People are having a hard time finding jobs, maintaining jobs. People have to work, creatively, to find income, whether it's DoorDash or Uber or what have you. People have to do different things in this new economy to make ends meet. So here's somebody who's making 75, somebody's making $200, $300 million contracts, right? Complain about how hard they got it. How about you learn some economic or financial, how about you some skills? How about you raise your financial IQ? Instead of just having people on your payroll just hanging around you getting paid to do nothing and draining your accounts, how about you help create some businesses and have your friends, the ones who really rock with you, first of all, get rid of the flunkies, get rid of the people who are just around you and wanting your downfall, get rid of them, and keep the friends that really are trying to do something for you, help them go to business training, help them acquire some skills, have them run businesses that you front. Therefore, they can make their own income and create their own wealth. You don't hear, I mean, honestly, do you ever hear people like Jeff Bezos and, all these other billionaires? Do you ever hear them say, I got it so hard? Do you really? I mean, it's just the nerve of some of these people, man. People need to just keep, I'm telling you, man, first of all, why does Rich Paul get interviewed so much? Who is he? Honestly, who is this dude? It's incredible this dude gets interviewed like this. Like he's somebody, man. It's like, you want to hear Elon Musk complain about being a trillionaire. Oh my God. Keep the microphone away from these people, man, please. Please keep the microphone away from these people, man. And the stuff that these guys be saying never get challenged. Clutch never gets challenged by anybody. They just sit there, yeah. Multimillionaires have it the worst. Yeah, you're right. I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm.
Hoorah for TV.